Let me show you a picture of this 14-year-old student. This is Danielle Khalaf. And she's in the news this month, or last month rather, because she's suing her Michigan public school district because her teacher basically criticized her, berated her, because this girl refused to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance because she was protesting how our government is supporting the Israeli genocide in Gaza. And, if you're a 14-year-old student and you recognize what the Israeli government is doing, what the IDF is doing, and how the US government is helping them do it, you might be thinking, well, what do I do from a distance? I don't like it. I'm mad about it. My heart goes out to those innocent people who are getting slaughtered. What do I do? And this girl was like, well, one thing I can do is stay seated during the Pledge of Allegiance because my country doesn't deserve respect right now in that way. And she has every right to do this because that's how the pledge works. And no one has to say it, no one has to stand for it. And so back in January, Danielle is, by the way, she's an 8th grader at East Middle School in the Plymouth-Canton Community Schools district. In January, she decided to just sit down during the Pledge of Allegiance. She didn't really explain why, but she did it, and she has every right to do it. In case you're wondering, and I alluded to this earlier during the live stream, why would people not want to stand during the Pledge of Allegiance? Because I always hear this every time I say something like this. There are people who say that is disrespectful. How dare you? People fought for this country, etc. There's a bunch of reasons historically why people don't want to stand up during the Pledge of Allegiance. The phrase under God pushes religion onto people who may not be religious. If you don't think we are a nation under God, you don't want to have to say that. Another reason is that the pledge says falsely that we have liberty and justice for all. Well, if you watch the news lately, you know damn well we don't have liberty and justice for all, especially if you are a person of color, if you're an immigrant or anyone like that. So historically, that's one reason a lot of Black students have protested saying the pledge. Another reason you might not like it is because when the pledge was written, I remember hearing that it was written by this socialist Baptist minister and stuff like that. Guess what? He wasn't a good guy. He wrote it because he really hated immigrants. And he's like, how dare you come from another country to this one and still like your home country? No. Put away your flag. Now you got to respect this American flag. So it's really an anti-immigration poem of sorts. It's all about pledging allegiance to our nation's flag and not the flag of whatever country you came from. And of course, at the end of all this, does the United States deserve admiration? Do you really want to pledge allegiance to this country right now under this leadership? I don't. Like, why would we want to pledge allegiance to a nation that is so often a global embarrassment and kind of the epicenter for making shit worse? So, none of this, by the way, none of this matters. If the girl didn't want to say the pledge because she didn't feel like it, that's all you need. So she stayed seated during the pledge. And according to what we have now found out, her teacher, Carissa Serrano, admonished and publicly humiliated the girl when she did this. Specifically, and this is from the lawsuit itself, it says, check this out. This is number 14 in this lawsuit that I'll show you. When the girl, Danielle, we know her name, declined to stand or recite the pledge, defendant Serrano disrupted the class and admonished her in the presence of her classmates. Serrano told Danielle that remaining seated was disrespectful, that Danielle was specifically disrespectful to U.S. military forces and the flag, and that she should stand. Danielle refused to stand. So her teacher doesn't get it. Her teacher doesn't know the law, but the student does. So district officials, after Danielle complained about this, I don't know if she told her parents and they complained or she personally complained, but they complained to the school, to the administrators. And after that, they soon did two things. They sent Serrano, the teacher, a corrective action notice, basically a warning saying, don't do this again. And they also held a staff meeting to remind teachers of the law. And that's good. Like, if that's what they did and they stuck with it and took it seriously, we would not be in this position right now. But apparently, They did it and they're like, good, we did our job. Now we're done with this. And then guess what happened? Danielle decided not to stand for the pledge again, and her teacher flipped out again. And then Danielle did it a third time, and her teacher flipped out a third time. And at this point, guess what happened now? This is according to the ACLU of Michigan. Here we go. When on one occasion, Danielle approached her teacher, this is the third time, by the way, after class. She approached her teacher after class privately to explain why she did not want to stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance, which, by the way, she doesn't have to give anyone an explanation for this, but she did. The teacher responded by saying, since you live in this country and enjoy its freedom, if you don't like it, you should go back to your country. By the way, for all I know, Danielle was born in the United States. So this teacher is not just ignorant of the law. This teacher is a bigot. What the hell is going on with this teacher? But like, who's being disruptive and disrespectful? It's the teacher. It's not the student. So after all this happened, it took a giant toll on the girl. And this is from their lawsuit as well. Look at number 20 here. As a result of Serrano's actions, Danielle suffered extensive emotional and social injuries. These include, among other things, inability to sleep, recurring nightmares, adoption of a more guarded demeanor, high levels of stress. Her weakened emotional state has compromised her physical health, suffered what her pediatrician, because she has a pediatrician because she's still a kid, described as the worst case of pneumonia that physician had seen in more than a year. Danielle has sought out and relied on therapy to cope with these circumstances. In addition to the emotional injuries, Danielle has had to cope with friends who want to distance themselves from her because of these incidents. The consequence has been isolation during a period when contact with peers is highly valued and necessary for her well-being. The impact has negatively affected her academic performance, a student with a nearly perfect record. So this teacher, has destroyed this child in many ways. And you could argue any one of these things, maybe it doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you look at it in totality, it's like, over what? Because the girl didn't want to stand for the pledge? Why are we mad about this? And you realize it's the result of a teacher who didn't know the law, a teacher who took her ignorant rage out on a kid who did nothing wrong, and an administration that didn't take this matter seriously enough to actually put a stop to it when it was going on. So at the time, a group called the Arab American Civil Rights League, they sent the school a letter saying, what the hell are you doing by letting this happen? And look at this part they sent. This is back in February. This matter is not just about one student. It's about upholding the fundamental principles of respect, equality, and a safe learning environment for all. If we allow such behavior to go unchecked, what message are we sending to our students and the broader community? Schools must be places of learning, inclusivity, and respect, not environments where discrimination is tolerated or ignored. And they wanted a response from the district saying, here's what we're going to do to make sure this stuff stops. And guess what? The district finally responded to that letter. This is at the end of February. This is from the superintendent of that district. And look what the superintendent said. They're like, look, you guys, as soon as we became aware of the allegation, the teacher involved was immediately placed on leave. Then, following a review and investigation, appropriate action was taken consistent with our school procedures and protocols. Okay. They said that, but what does that actually mean? They said the teacher's placed on leave. Is it paid leave? Is it unpaid leave? Is the teacher fired or not fired? I went to look on the district's website. The teacher is no longer listed on there, but the school did not say we fired her because we're not putting up with this shit. And everyone deserves that explanation. I want to know what the district did. If they fired her, I don't need her personnel information. Just say this is unacceptable. We investigated it and found that, yeah, this teacher did the wrong thing and failed to correct it even after we warned her, so we kicked her ass out the door. Say that. They also pointed out that we took corrective action. Well, what did you do? What appropriate action did you take? Because as far as I can tell, you didn't do anything because the teacher was still punishing the kid over this. So the district's response was not very helpful, right? So because of that, the ACLU of Michigan and the Arab Civil Rights League, they are now suing the district and the teacher herself. And they're basically saying the district either failed to follow up, supervise, monitor, and or investigate what that teacher did. They didn't really take any implementation when it comes to policies, training, other procedures. So as far as we know, and as far as they know, they're like, we don't know what you did, but it's clearly not enough. And you don't seem like you're taking this seriously right now. So we're filing a lawsuit to force you to do the right thing because we can't rely on you to do it on your own. That's what they're filing this lawsuit for. And they say the girls' First Amendment rights were violated, that they want the district to never prevent kids from staying seated during the pledge. And it bothers me that they need a judge to fix this, because you would hope the administrators at this district would fix it on their own. But they had a shot. They didn't do enough. So the only upside here is Danielle is entering high school next year, and she's leaving the building where all this happened. And hopefully she can make a new set of friends who actually respect the fact that she's this badass kid. And I hope her teachers at the high school respect the law and celebrate students who know their rights. All right. I'll stop there. What questions we got here? Brave student. Absolutely. Very brave. Like, can you imagine being in 8th grade and trying to do this back in the day? Scary. She's in Salvador now. She's not. No. She's in Michigan. I hope the Trump administration is not trying to deport her and her family, though I wouldn't put it behind them because she's kind of brown. This is very encouraging to see someone so young taking a stand. Absolutely. It's always so encouraging when you hear about kids who are doing the right thing for the right reasons. And usually we only hear about it because the adults in the building don't realize it's totally okay to do this. In fact, I would argue it's more patriotic to stay seated for the pledge because you demand better from our country than what the country is giving you. Yeah, you need take a knee during the national anthem because you want the country to live up to its ideals. You're not just gonna blind faith go along with the crowd because everything's perfect. Like, these are people, the people protesting are the ones who want better. Well, as an Army veteran with 4 combat tours, it is our First Amendment right not to stand or recite the pledge. Thank you. Yes, you understand. Everyone has a right to protest. That is what the freedom we are fighting for when people in the military are doing that. The idea that it's disrespectful to exercise your First Amendment rights, like, what the hell is that? Do other countries make students say some sort of pledge? Yeah, like North Korea, Saudi Arabia. Like, if I told you any of those countries, they make their kids say a pledge to their country every day, everyone hands down would be like, well, that's brainwashing. Yeah,